Welcome to Everyone Should Learn Virtue from the teachings of Musonius Rufus, vegetarian, part 2 of 2 on words of wisdom. Gaius Musonius Rufus was one of the great Stoic philosophers of the Roman Empire. He lived in the 1st century CE and was born in Volsini, an ancient city of Etruria which is now part of present-day Italy. His philosophy focused on the study and practice of virtue. He believed that everyone is capable of being virtuous. However, people who had not learned the skills of ethical living could not be expected to live without error. Thus, he lived and promoted a simple and frugal lifestyle, which included the learning of self-control, modesty, courage, and benevolence. He was a vegetarian and taught that being mindful of one's diet was a vital virtue. His students included Roman noblemen, senators, and future philosophers. In the years following, his wisdom continued to have an impact on later Stoic philosophy, as well as early Christian moral thought. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, was his most notable student, whose principles were deeply influenced by his mentor. Although the works of Gaius Musonius Rufus are mentioned in the writings of Epictetus, most have been lost through time. However, his philosophical teachings in the form of aphoristic sayings and discourses were preserved by his students. This was later translated and included in Cora E. Lutz's book, Musonius Rufus, the Roman Socrates. Let us continue with the discourse entitled, Should Daughters Receive the Same Education as Sons?, where even children are encouraged to learn the importance of virtue from a young age. Should daughters receive the same education as sons? Gluttony, drunkenness, and other related vices, which are vices of excess and bring disgrace upon those guilty of them, show that self-control is most necessary for every human being, male and female alike. For the only way of escape from wantonness is through self-control. There is no other. Perhaps someone may say that courage is a virtue appropriate to men only. That is not so. For a woman too must have courage and be wholly free of cowardice, so that she will neither be swayed by hardships nor by fear. No more it is necessary for women to be able to repel attack, unless indeed they are willing to appear more cowardly than hens and other female birds which defend their young from creatures much larger than themselves. If, therefore, something of this courage is lacking in other women, it is due to lack of use and practice, rather than because they were not endowed with it. If then men and women are born with the same virtues, the same type of training and education must, of necessity, befit both men and women. For with every animal and plant whatsoever, proper care must be bestowed upon it to produce the excellence appropriate to it. Is it not true that, if it were necessary under like circumstances for a man and a woman to be able to play the flute, and if, furthermore, both had to do so in order to earn a living, we should give them both exactly the same thorough training in flute playing, and similarly, if it were necessary for either to play the harp? Well then, if it is necessary for both to be proficient in the virtue which is appropriate to a human being, that is, for both to be able to have understanding and self-control and courage and justice, the one no less than the other, shall we not teach them both alike the art by which a human being becomes good? Yes, certainly we must do that and nothing else. For all human tasks, I am inclined to believe, are a common obligation and are common for men and women, and none is necessarily appointed for either one exclusively, but some pursuits are more suited to the nature of one, some to the other, and for this reason some are called men's work and some women's. But whatever things have reference to virtue, these, one would properly say, are equally appropriate to the nature of both, inasmuch as we agree that virtues are in no respect more fitting for the one than the other. Hence, I hold it reasonable that the things which have reference to virtue ought to be taught to male and female alike, and furthermore, that straight from infancy they ought to be taught that this is right and that is wrong, and that is the same for both alike, that this is helpful, that is harmful, that one must do this, one must not do that. From this training, understanding is developed in those who learn, boys and girls alike, with no difference. Then they must be inspired with a feeling of shame toward all that is base. When these two qualities have been created within them, man and woman are of necessity self-controlled, and most of all, the child who is trained properly, whether boy or girl, must be accustomed to endure hardship, not to fear death, not to be disheartened in the face of any misfortune. They must in short be accustomed to every situation which calls for courage. Now courage, it was demonstrated above, should be present in women too. Furthermore, to shun selfishness, and to have high regard for fairness and, being a human being, to wish to help and to be unwilling to harm one's fellow human is the noblest lesson, and it makes those who learn it just. What reason is there why it is more appropriate for a man to learn this? Certainly, if it is fitting for women to be just, it is necessary for both to learn the same lessons which are in the highest degree appropriate to the character of each and supremely important. If it happens that a man knows a little something about a certain skill, and a woman not, or again she knows something and he not, that suggests no difference in the education of either. But about the all-important things, let not one know, and the other not, but let them know the same things. If you ask me what doctrine produces such an education, I shall reply that as without philosophy, no man would be properly educated, so no woman would be. I only urge that they should acquire from philosophy goodness in conduct and nobility of character. Now in very truth, philosophy is training in nobility of character and nothing else.
I definitely believe that eating vegetarian helps. Michael Wardian, vegetarian, on recovering after marathons.
Loving viewers, it was a pleasure to have your company for today's Words of Wisdom.